All right, everybody, welcome back to the Move podcast. Talking about Stage 9. Alain, what'd we do?
Stage 9. Saint-Léonard de Noblat to Puy de Dôme. Saint-Léonard de Noblat to Puy de Dôme.
That was top 3 right there of the year. That was that first.
If you're ever having a bad day, you should just have Alain come over and just read cities off the map.
Yeah, just go around the map, just reading off.
Lance needs cheering up. Can you just do him this solid?
Talking about an epic finish here on Stage 9, as is every day this summer. Ketone IQ is our presenting sponsor, made by HVMN. We'll get into some of that later. Boy, what a drag race. I mean, that was a drag race. That's what, and of course, if you were watching on the coverage, you saw the helicopter footage. It was just a drag race up a mountain that we spent a lot of time talking about yesterday. I've never ridden. Most of us didn't even know it was out there. What a beast.
I don't know how they did that finish in the past with the gears they ran, like in the 70s.
Yeah.
No way.
They were standing up a lot and they were, just grinding.
Yeah, we have video we're going to show of the finish on the Puy de Dôme a long time ago, and you can see how much they're grinding up that mountain.
And not to mention, here you have probably, what are they, bikes, 14, 15 pounds back then. I mean, even 1988 when Johnny Welts won, I don't know, his bike probably weighed 24, 25 pounds. Go back to Merckx's era, you might even have been pushing 30 pounds. So the weight of the bike,
the gears,
and not the granny gear that we all enjoy now. Yep. Before we get into all the action, today's show brought to you by Mont Cush. Mont Cush was created in 2019 by a good friend of ours, Sully, who was on the show the other day, really giving us his own personal journey and personal story of creating Mont Cush to help his daughter, Devin, with a medical condition. Mont Cush grows their own organic hemp in Vermont. And if you saw the show with Sully, you saw the backdrop, like that farm. I was like, I don't know forget the hemp. Let's just go hang out on that farm.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
Dude, that should just be like a retreat.
They made a reality show of the beginning of Mont Cush.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. You can find it. Do you know what it's called offhand? Sorry, if you search Mont Cush TV show, it's fascinating.
I bet it is. Anyways, they use a custom 200-ton press to extract pure rosin. By the way, customer reviews rave about their pain relief formula. Utilizes groundbreaking nanotechnology called SENS, which is self-emulsifying nano delivery system, which Sully walked us through. The other cool thing about Mont Cush is there's no stain and no stink, so you can use as much of it as you want. You can use it before rides, after rides, before working out, after working out. It really doesn't matter whether you're a weekend warrior or a semi-pro rider or just a whatever, a wannabe. If you're in pain, go to Mont Cush. That's MONTKUSH.com, montcush.com. Use the code THEMOVE and get 30% off your entire order. Again, that's montcush.com. And later in the show, George and I, we had a little incident yesterday on our mountain bike ride. And George is apparently, I'm fine. But George is apparently having some issues, so I suspect you've been lathering up with
Absolutely.
Mont Cush.
Lathering up, and the name of the show is called Kings of Cush.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Yep.
How about that? Kings of Cush. Check it out. Also today brought to you by Wahoo. Wahoo cycling products are trusted by so many teams in the pro peloton. We see Wahoo's Element Bolt GPS bike computer on the handlebars of more teams than any other brand. Now you can save 20% off on select full-price products by using the coupon code THEMOVE at checkout. During the tour, go to wahoofitness.com/TheMove. Enter the code THEMOVE, gets you 20% off. And also, they have that fancy climber feature there where you can see, I love this, like when you're out biking and if you're starting to hurt, the climbs pop up and you can see how much suffering you got left. That's good for you, JB.
It can be overwhelming. You're like, really?
Yeah. Should we? Yeah. And also, and we talked about this, of course, it didn't factor in today, but I know these guys are using it for the downhills just not as a way to steer the bike, but as guidance for what's coming up around corners. I think that's a pretty handy trick. Again, wahoofitness.com/TheMove. Use the code TheMove. Gets you 20% off. Well, what a hell of a stage. Before we get into it, I think the biggest winner of the day today is the Puy de Dôme. Just watching it was so cool and so different. Yeah. Right? Just straight, steep, no fans, narrow.
Yeah, we can. It's hard for us to say we haven't raced up a climb in France. We've pretty much done them all. And to see the helicopter shots of that stage and the riders basically time trialing by themselves up this mountain, not only was a beautiful finish, but super, super exciting.
As weird as I thought, finishing without a crowd and all that energy that you can kind of feed off of, I just reminded myself that most of these riders rode without crowds because of COVID. Yet you guys never went through that. Did you ever do a mountaintop finish without a crowd?
No, you know, and I get a lot of questions actually, and I'm sure you do as well, George, about the crowds and just how crazy when you're watching on TV and the people are there and they seemingly get out of the way a half a second before you get there, and they're patting you on the back and they're splashing with water. It looks like complete pandemonium. When you're in the race, it's not that crazy. And in fact, it's kind of cool as long as they get out of the way. And as long as it's water, not something else, which has happened to yours truly. But, and on all the climbs, they do put up the barriers, and you really notice it then. Like say you're doing Alpe d'Huez, and it's just pandemonium, and you get to 3K to go, and they start the barriers. You feel like you went from, a Metallica concert to like a Christmas sermon at something. I mean, it gets real quiet real fast, even though there are people there.
But this was even a much more of a drastic change. I mean, Woodsy in his interview said his ears were ringing the whole way up, right. and 4K to go, all of a sudden it was just silence. Yeah. And he went, but his ears continued to ring for a little bit, but he was able to, just really focus. And he said, I thought it was really interesting that he said he was going to go as hard as he could from the bottom to the top in time trial. And no matter what he did, he was going to be happy with his result because he knew he was going to go as hard as he could. So he wasn't even expecting to catch Jorgenson, so to speak. But he made up 2 minutes and 20 seconds from the bottom of the climb to the top. So he gauged his effort perfectly. And, these things happen in those breakaways. We talk about 14 guys going from the gun, super hard day with about 60K to go. They start attacking each other. And that just throws a whole different dynamic into a breakaway because you're going to have guys that have a couple teammates in there that aren't going to do work if one gets up the road. So I really applaud Jorgenson's effort to go solo with 40K to go with that monster lingering at the finish line. And he only had 15, 20 seconds for a long time. And what I found might have been his biggest issue was in that time period, about like 10, 15K where he had 15, 20 seconds time trialing, he had no water in his bottle, super hot day. And the guys in the back, like Woods, are still in the group. Yes, they're going hard, but they got the cars right behind them, and they can get water when they need it. I think that ultimately probably made a huge difference at the end of the race.
Well, we had a big crowd down in the living room watching the race today, and there was so much excitement about a young American winning a stage like Puy de Dôme. And of course, there had the time gap. It seemed comfortable, and all of a sudden, Michael Woods was shot out of a cannon, and the room just got quieter and quieter. And we're like, and we have to cheer for North America, but it would have been so cool to see a young American win on the Puy de Dôme.
Yeah, the last one was 2021 Sepp Kuss, stage 15. Prior to that, it was a decade. Tyler Farrar.
Wow.
Yeah, Jorgenson's had a couple of fourth places already. Obviously today was all or nothing. He's not happy with the fourth place, but I think he's happy with his form. He's had some injuries this year, some illnesses, and the guy just trains like a beast. I mean, he's one of those guys that measures every calorie that goes in his body, spends a month at a time at altitude camps by himself. I mean, that's a hard life. It's not an easy life, and he really puts in all the work.
It's almost a daily thing where you're really selling the lifestyle of a professional. It's like for all you young kids.
I feel like we had it easy compared to them.
For all you young kids, I mean, listen, this is 2023. Think about our day, George. I mean, we were listening to, it had like transistor radios and like 3 channels, one of which maybe would have been CNN, which they were on repeat like every 45 minutes. We got to get kids into the game.
Yeah. No, you've talked about your era versus now. Like, sure, they may train more and be more physical than you guys were, but they also can FaceTime their families and loved ones.
They have a lot more entertainment at their fingertips.
Yeah,
that's for
yeah,
sure.
they have everything at their disposal. And you guys packed up, went to Europe, and were isolated.
We had to find a bunch of coins to be able to call home. When we first moved to Italy, be like, shit, I got to take a stack of coins and call my parents for like 10 minutes and keep putting it in every 30 seconds.
Yeah. Wow. Speaking of Michael Woods, a couple things stand out for me. We spend a lot of time on this show talking about just how young, speaking of these kids that are racing now, how young the game has gotten, right? In the early 20s, obviously Tadej Pogačar is still in the young rider category. And here you have a Michael Woods, and he said it. I didn't realize that he was getting on up there. He said it in his post-race interview, 36, almost 37 years old. And I'll just remind folks, two things here. Michael Woods was a runner. Before he came to the game. He was late to cycling, hence his age. So he might have a slightly different race age because he just doesn't have the years and years and years and the miles and miles and miles as somebody else his age. But just so you, I mean, when we're talking about as an athlete or as an engine, let me just give you some numbers. Michael Woods' PR in the mile, 3:57. Michael Woods' PR in the 5K, 14:14. I mean, those are world-class times. So you're obviously dealing with an exceptional endurance athlete. The other thing I think really stood out for me, and you saw it with him today, climbs that are that steep that require you to stand up are actually, this is my theory, so all you nerdy fucking propeller head physiologists out there, don't bounce on me.
Spencer.
But this is my theory, is when it's that steep and you're required to stand up more and more, you're getting closer to almost running. And so that for him, that was a natural. Obviously, he timed it just right and had to close a big gap. But he was running on the pedals. He ran a damn 3:57 mile, and unfortunately, good for him, but sad for Jorgenson. But obviously a beast of an athlete his whole life.
And what makes him so unique too, because I remember back in the day when he was racing for American domestic team, he was known as having really good climbing skills. But there was always the X factor. He's a runner, so how can he handle his bike? He crashed a bunch early in his career. So for him to sort of get over that, where that wasn't his first sport, it's incredibly impressive that now he's able to not only win a stage in Tour de France, but be able to navigate the positioning that is so hectic in the Pro Tour races.
You know what else is impressive? I looked at our text thread, or we have a Move text thread, and when that break went, that was at 7:22 this morning. The race ended around 10. 7:22, I think George sent a text. Who from this break will win? Johan was like, I think Woods. Like that far out, like he called that.
And I didn't listen to him. I bet on Jorgenson. So I lost my bet. But I think they were both really good bets. But it just makes it so tough to predict, because usually the strongest climber in a breakaway like that doesn't win because everybody's marking off of that guy like Woods. So the fact that Jorgenson went and tried to get ahead of the race was super impressive. And it just played out to where they were able to work together decently well, the Woods group I'm referring to, and get to the climb with a manageable gap, 2 minutes, 20 seconds, although we thought Jorgenson had it. But the Woods just crushed that climb, just rode an incredible pace up that climb.
Yeah, when it's that hard and they've had the first week that they've had, this is going to start to add. I mean, we said it on the first and second day. This is going to add up. It's perfect for him. But going back to what you said, George, about the sort of the knock on him or the questions around Michael Woods early in his career. I mean, obviously this for an engine like that, perfect finish for him, but he still had to make the break. I mean, to make those breaks and to be in position and to jump and to recover and jump and finally make the break. That's very different than running in circles around a track.
Yeah, and we saw a strategy change from Jumbo. Not one guy from Jumbo in the breakaway, which we hadn't seen at all this whole Tour de France. So perhaps they wanted to stay with Jonas. Perhaps Wout wasn't on a best day because he's usually making those breakaways, without even trying. So it's just an interesting stage. And now we have Israeli Premier Tech with a stage win. And the other teams are going to start getting more and more depths for it. And what happens? The racing is going to get more and more aggressive.
And we have a rest day. Which, I always hated.
I hated riding with you on a rest day as well because you rode so hard.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we're going to get into a story later. You also, it seems like, hated riding with me yesterday. More on that later. But before we get it, I want to get into a little bit of the, obviously, a stage like this, a finish like this, had to be some fireworks in the GC battle, which we, of course, saw between Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar. A lot of thoughts there. But before we do, today's show also brought to you by Roka. Roka's invented a completely new class of eyewear. Glasses optimized for performance. No other eyewear brand can keep up with what these guys and gals are doing, whether it's on the performance side or on the casual side. By the way, check it. I brought some new ones today. I ditched the all silver titanium aviators. I went with the blues. I went blue steel.
Blue steel, I like it.
How you doing? I mean, if for folks watching, if you're not buying these right now, look how, even as ugly as I am, look how dope I look right now. No? God, nobody. It's unbelievable. Thank you, head of HR. She was laughing just a little bit. So on the casual side and also the prescription side, which we're obviously avid fans of. Absolute best optics on the market. I thought you were about to put on sunglasses. Sorry, you're doing chapstick on your lips. The best optics on the market, crystal clear, fog resistant, scratch resistant, and they never slip no matter how much you're out there sweating. And they're not just working with professional cyclists, a whole bunch of other great athletes, not just sporting athletes, but special forces, etc. And hand-built in our hometown of Austin, Texas. The Move listeners get 20% off. Just go to Roka, ROKA.com. Again, that's Roka.com, ROKA.com. Enter the code THEMOVE, gets you 20% off. Also today brought to you by Helix Sleep. Clearly, George was on his Helix mattress last night. I am worried. Is there a pulse on the man today? We've been sleeping on Helix mattresses for years now. They came across our radar. Super cool platform where you go in, you take a 2-minute sleep quiz, you talk about your sleep, the characteristics of it, the strengths, the weaknesses, and they make you a fully customized mattress. They also just introduced the newest, most high-end collection called Helix Elite. 6 different mattress models, each tailored for specific sleep positions and firmness preferences. Don't just take it from us. Wired Magazine and GQ Magazine named it Mattress of the Year. Special offer for our listeners. Helix Sleep is offering up to 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/themove. And this is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. helixsleep.com/themove. Last one of the day, HVMN, our presenting sponsor, Ketone IQ, another thing that, it's just a part of our daily routine. Most of these things are. This one gets us up, gets us fired up, gets us clear, mentally clear, got JB over COVID brain. I love that.
That sounds so bad.
I love it. That one time you were like, I had COVID brain and I started drinking Ketone IQ. And I was like, I'm going to remember that.
I did. A couple months with it in the regimen, I feel completely different.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
No Adderall either. I haven't been off Adderall in 20 years.
Can we go back to HVMN for a second?
Well, no,
this is serious.
I mean, the HVMN is getting me through.
Good.
I don't need it.
All right, for all you folks
Drop
out
the
there.
mic. Drop the mic, JB.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's like
is.
HVMN launched the world's first drinkable ketone in 2017. Ketone IQ is their latest innovation on ketones with improved effectiveness, taste, and cost. If you're looking for better sustained energy, mental focus, and sharpness, or if you're just trying to get in the flow, Ketone IQ is the way to go. You can save 30% off your first subscription order of Ketone IQ over at hvmn.com/themove. Again, that's hvmn.com/themove. 30% off.
So we mentioned a good day for North America with obviously Jorgenson battling out for the win, getting 4th place. Mike Woods wins the stage. Nielsen Powless again in the breakaway, getting more points for the mountain jersey, which I feel like it's kind of transforming now. Our boss's outlook and view on the polka dot jersey, that he's actually starting to enjoy watching Nielsen in the breakaway and representing America in the polka dot jersey. And I feel like he likes it so much that the team pulled together and got him a little gift. Hold on a second.
Oh no, I knew you were going.
From our friends at the feed, we made him a custom polka dot bottle for our ride in a couple days. Here you go, Lance.
Well, everybody over there at the feed, I appreciate this. This is, wow. Even got my name on it. Okay. Although I will say the way that these rides are going and trending, and me compared to George, I mean, if we were like literally giving out polka dot jerseys, I would be with the polka dot bottle because I'm kicking his ass on many of these climbs.
Well, not only are you kicking my ass, you're actually crashing my ass as well, which I think is a good time.
Hold on to that. No, we have to talk.
Look at my arm here; it's all jacked up.
I know, but there are other things that happened actually in the Tour de France today.
Got it.
But you were going on about North America. I think Quinn Simmons sadly could not start today.
You know, I think it was a good decision by the team. He was struggling. I mean, he came in incredible form. I know because I rode with the guy. The guy's a beast. But he's a young rider, and I like the approach the team took to where they didn't want to sort of bury him into a grave to try to get out of these injuries. They let him get home and recover and get ready for the second part of the season.
And Sepp Kuss, if we're talking about Americans and North Americans, you know, played another important role today for Jonas Vingegaard. Now we'll get into. I think you guys probably have, you and especially Johan, have some questions just about once the job is done. Now I'm starting to think there's a different idea here on their side.
By keeping Sepp Kuss up there instead of just peeling off and that's saving energy.
Yeah. But I'd love to get Johan's thoughts. But okay. I think that maybe there's some strategy there. I don't know that I agree with the strategy, but I think perhaps there is.
There has to be. I mean, he's sitting in 9th place overall, 6:45 behind. I mean, that's you see the time gaps these breakaways are getting. They got 15 minutes at the bottom of the climb today. So that's an easy, like, one day, throw him in the move. All of a sudden, Jumbo can sit up and relax and let UAE do the work. So I'm starting to like the strategy. Having Sepp close.
They're keeping him as a threat.
Yep.
To make them work.
Yes.
Okay.
And then of course, which was to be expected. It's always interesting when, I mean, I think at some point George got up early and was watching the race. And I have to leave. I'm leaving today to fly to Minnesota to pick up Olivia from summer camp. So I got my Sufferfest out of the way early this morning. But when I came back and turned the TV on, they said that the breakaway was 12 kilometers ahead of the main field. 12 kilometers. That's what is that? 7 miles, 7-something miles. You imagine being the fans like, well, I guess that's. Well, wait, where's everybody else? But so you almost had 2 different races. Obviously, the race for the stage win, and then you had to wait, 10-ish minutes for the race for the GC, which didn't disappoint. I mean, that's 2 in a row for Pogačar. Even though he only got 7 or 8 seconds. And his interview after the race was pretty interesting. They asked him. They said, "Could you tell that Vingegaard was suffering behind you?" And he said, because he wasn't looking back. He said, I was watching his shadow, and he could see, even if you know these guys, and as you would, right? If this is your main rival, you raced with him for years. I know this sounds crazy, folks. I mean, if you can catch the sun just right where you're looking at their shadow, and it depends, of course, where the sun is. If the shadow could be right beside you, you can actually see in the shadow differences in your main rivals. And he said, it looked like he was suffering, stepped on the gas a little more. And Vingegaard got distanced. I don't know. If I'm Jumbo and Vingegaard, this is trending the wrong way.
Yeah, it showed how hard that climb actually was. Because you saw Sepp Kuss doing the pace from when it got really steep at 4 kilometers to go, and then he pulled off. And about 2.5K, they kind of just fanned out. I mean, that's how hard of a climb it was. They were scared to keep the tempo going. Sure, Simon Yates started going because he saw his brother probably suffering, trying to get ahead of him in the overall. There's a huge fight for 3rd place now brewing, which is making the race super exciting. But when Tadej went, I thought initially Jonas was just trying to stay within his pace and was going to keep him, right there. But I mean, all in all, it was not a disaster day for Jonas at all. He only lost 7 seconds, still in the yellow jersey. And like I keep saying, 21-round boxing match. It's 4-3 now. Yeah, Tadej's up 4 rounds to 3.
I don't think 7 seconds is going to matter. This is just a mental game now. Yeah, right. It's just those. You got a rest day tomorrow. You got the whole day to think about. He's in the yellow jersey still, so he has the obligatory yellow jersey press conference. He's going to be asked, 50 questions about it. It's going to suck, straight up. Yep. It's going to suck, and they're all going to. And none of those questions are going to make him feel like that Mr. Momentum is on his side. All of those questions tomorrow, he's going to feel like he's been kicked a couple times.
So Pogačar just keeps chipping away.
Yeah.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, which we even talked about earlier pre-show, it's like you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself and start thinking about the time trial. But at Jumbo, they might be thinking, we need a minute on Pogačar going into that time trial or something. They might come up with some number. I don't know.
I mean, if I'm Jumbo, right now I'm thinking we got to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Even if they're a little 5-6 seconds here or there, these are minimal. We got to have a day where you stay equal and you felt good. You felt like you somehow had some control of the dynamic. Because I'm telling you, these little days,
and let's not forget though, the one round that Jonas won, he put a lot more time into Tadej than Tadej has put into him in these last 2 days from the attacks. I mean, we're talking 7 to the other day was, I think 10, 15 seconds. I mean, Jonas put a minute on him the day he went. So the one big day that Jonas had, that he had good legs, he was able to put more time into Tadej than Tadej was in 2 stages where he had better legs than Jonas. So I think it's still a very close battle.
So rest day, and then as we looked at the stage 10, when they come back from the rest day, it's a tough tour.
It's a tough tour. I mean, I'm of the opinion that any day after a rest day is hard. The body just kind of lays down, literally and figuratively, on a rest day, and you just hope for almost like a transition stage. Even those are hard, and you certainly post rest day don't hope for a start straight uphill, which stage 11 gives you. Look at that right out of the gate, and I know it doesn't look that crazy, 5 kilometers at 4.7%, but they're going from the gun. So that guy's going to be warm. Stage isn't that long, 160 something kilometers. Guy's going to be warming up. They're going to be doing the Jackie Durand get a running start at it. I don't know. This profile post rest day I'd be stressed just based on my history. I don't like that stuff. And then if you go back to the profile, I don't know. Is it ever flat?
It's not flat.
Dear God.
And this is sort of the a normal, typical, standard rest day. They're what, 9 stages in, so they've gone a long way. So people's bodies are in the zone, so to speak. They're used to waking up. They're used to riding hard for 4 to 6 hours. And so tomorrow it's going to be interesting to see what these teams do. I know Lance, he'd always want to ride super hard, at least 3 hours, a lot of climbing. A guy like me, I'm like, oh, please, do we have to do anything more than an hour and a half? But we'd usually ride. And it was not an easy day, so I'm sure these GC guys are going to go quite hard tomorrow.
And still in the Massif Central, so the pavement is what it is, doesn't roll. And if you're just listening to some of the riders' comments today, it was really hot, so it sounds like it's heating up.
I never thought about what it's like on a rest day in a town for the spectators, because I remember when you guys would come into Austin for your camp in December, and it's like, you're cruising around Austin, you're like, oh, there's the blue train, going down Highway 360. But for the fans, you can see every team potentially out there riding, maybe stopping in a cafe. I mean, did you ever interact with spectators on a rest day, or is it do your ride with a follow car back to the hotel?
You're asking Lance this? He doesn't,
George, what did you do? Did you interact with the spectators?
He doesn't even interact with people on the bike path here. But he just keeps going. It's Lance. No, he never interacted with the spectators. I, of course, on the other hand, yes, I would interact with people. I'm a man of the people.
I'll tell you, the biggest hit on a rest day is in fact is a big hit a lot of days because these teams are. We've talked about in the past about, the hotels and the different quality of hotels vary wildly throughout the tour. So that you might have a night where you're in a 5-star and it's behind a gate and you're super chill. You might be at the Campanile or the Ibis or the Mercure or the Novotel. They're all dumps. And the team buses and the cars and the trucks and all that stuff are in the parking lot. And the mechanics that's the cool thing for fans. You should see the crowds around the mechanics. Mm-hmm. A dude washing a bike, whoa! But it's they get an up close look, and that's I'm serious. They get an up close look at how these guys are taking care of the bikes, how they're washing them, how they're inspecting whatever they're doing. That's pretty cool.
Not only that, to your question, one of the fans' questions yesterday, one of the biggest innovations in the last 25 years. Now it almost doesn't matter the quality of the hotel. The big teams, they're going into the rooms before the riders get there. They're putting their own mattresses in, their own sheets. sometimes air conditioning, just really making their environment as perfect as possible. Because what do we know now how important sleep is? And if you can figure out the sleep game better than others, the teams with money are doing that now. So the room quality, hotel quality almost isn't as big. It's not as big an issue as it was in the past for the bigger teams.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. We should have been racing.
That's why you had
days.
me around.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, you know, we had a little, and we're going to get into this incident, what happened on the mountain bike yesterday, but as we were nursing our way back, our buddy Ashish, because of the incident, his shifter broke. And so we were helping him with the shifter, and George was down the bike path talking to some random guy. And so just a little defense of myself, George, because I rolled up and the guy, you know, oh, hey, whoa, it's Lance too.
I was quite shocked at how
I was very nice to the gentleman.
You were nice. I agree.
Okay, I just wanted to state that. I didn't ride by and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Let's go, man. My favorite college voice.
Yeah, I got stopped on the trail yesterday. So shout out to Cooper and his family up here from Alabama.
Yeah,
nice.
And it's funny. We had another family. We stopped for water over there in Snowmass, and we have forgotten this family. And I always feel bad about this. You had a husband, wife, and a young son who was probably 12, and the mom's like, "Hey, where's the swear jar this year?" And I was like. And then you're just I'm reminded that I'm such an idiot on the show and just no filter. And there's a 12-year-old boy. And they were like, the whole family watches. And I'm like, ouch. So the kid's like going to school like, seeing the fucking douches, man. And I'm like, teacher's like, who taught you that? The move.
Speaking of 12-year-old boys, Lance did another nice thing. He called our buddy Cleve Backwell today, who unfortunately his young son Whit had a really bad wreck doing some downhill training. Broke several bones, kneecap, all kinds of stuff. He's in the hospital for the last couple of days. So thank you, Lance, for FaceTime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys want to share the tale of the mountain biking?
We had a little incident. Yeah. We were having a great ride. Got on over to my favorite trail here in this area, Tom Blake. Then we cruised, as I said, through Snowmass. We're kind of coming back through. We're doing a trail called Lowline, which is totally uneventful. You basically do it with your eyes closed, which clearly I was doing and it's just got some little whoopties in it, you know. And the last one, I was behind our friend Dean Hill, and I was I was playing golf also in the afternoon. I think I started thinking about golf. And I hit the last jump.
You can't let your mind wander on these trails.
No, and I was thinking about going low on the G course, and I just lost it on the last little thing, the last little jump, and I didn't have my dropper down, and it just kicked me up enough. And as soon as I started coming back down to the ground, I was like, okay, this is not good. And I had nowhere to go, and it was just a major cliff, no railing, no nothing. And I'm like, I'm gonna ride off this cliff.
Yep.
And there, George was behind me. Ashish was right behind George. And I'm convinced that I knew that I could get off the bike, but I was going to roll and fall down this cliff.
Which I took a video of how big this cliff was.
And so we're there, and I'm like, okay. And then what you kind of see if you go back, Colton, and of course y'all have to be watching this on YouTube. That first little part before the green, that you're just rolling downhill. The part where you start to see the green was straight down. I mean, that's probably 20 feet. And I'm thinking, I'm like there, and it was the weirdest thing. I mean, I caught my front wheel grabbed a little bit as I started to ride down, and it caught just enough. I was like, I have to just basically crash myself. I mean, I can't go straight or left, otherwise I don't know what's going to happen. So I just basically got off the bike, crashed myself to the right. And then, George ran into me, ran right into the back of me, right in my back.
Yeah, he's like, bro, you ran over me. I'm like, your bike went right into me. What do you want me to do?
And then Ashish comes around the corner.
But had that bike not come back up, that means Lance would have been rolling down that cliff. It was, a matter of inches that he did not go down that cliff, which would have, he probably would have been in the hospital right now.
Yeah, and missed playing golf, more importantly. Yep. So kids, when you're out there riding, do not think about your afternoon golf round.
Yes.
But yeah, that was, wow. And the funny thing too, though, we all got up and kind of dusted off, and I just kept going. I was like, all right, let's finish the ride. And I hear George, he's like, wait.
I wanted to take the road back.
He's like, wait,
I'm good. Let's just go home.
He's like, why are we finishing the ride? Why don't we just head home on the road? I'm like, what? I want a piece of this guy before it's over. Huh? Where's my bottle? Right here.
All right, you guys be safe out there.
Okay,
all right, we got to keep this together. All right, your Ventum Tour trivia of the day. Again, at the end of the tour, Ventum will be giving away a brand new NS1, a complete bike, their road bike. Yesterday's answer, just if you're playing along and want to see if you're right, the question was, who won the first Tour de France after World War II?
All right.
And that was won by Jean Robic of France in 1947.
Wow.
Today's question, oh, here we go. Who is the youngest winner of the Tour de France? Youngest winner.
Ever?
Okay. I'll try to give you.
I do not know.
It was early in the century, so it was some time ago. So anyhow, if you can look up that answer, do whatever you need to get the correct answer. Email it in. Do not send it to THEMOVE. A lot of people are emailing us. Send it to trivia@ventumracing.com. Every day from the correct answers, they draw one. All those finalists will be in for the last day. Okay, trivia@ventumracing.com. All right, couple quick questions for you guys. And then you can get on to your rest day, right? Super fan of the show.
I can get on to Brainerd, Minnesota. Anybody out there in Brainerd wants to hang out. What are y'all doing? I mean, there's a lot of lakes, man. Flying in, there's water everywhere. I guess like every license plate says the land of 10,000 lakes. I mean it. I mean, it may be more.
They even say that's a very low estimate of the actual number of lakes.
You know what else is right by there? Has nothing to do with these questions you're going to ask. Is this shit's crazy, and this is a true story. The headwaters of the Mississippi River are right there. There's signs everywhere. You can drive to it, and apparently, like when I think of the Mississippi, I'm thinking like New Orleans. This thing's like a mile wide. The headwaters are there. It's like it's just like a little trickle.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
I thought it was pretty cool.
It's got to start somewhere. You can't just be a rushing river.
Will you be able to go there and take a picture of the headwater of the Mississippi River for us? Or is it too far out of the way?
Well, for those that know me well, I don't spend a lot of time stopping to look at waterfalls and all this other gorgeous shit that people stop and look at for hours. I'm like, okay, cool, waterfall, let's go.
At the top of all these mountains, it's just a trickle right now, too.
Yeah, I know.
And then it gets bigger as it goes downhill. All right, super fan of the show. We all see riders gasping for breath after a hard stage, and I never see riders taking oxygen. Is taking oxygen banned? That's from Paul in Bristol, Virginia. That's a good question.
It is a good question. It's probably not banned. I think that
would make sense to help part of the recovery.
And when we see it in professional sports, it's typically on the sidelines of like an American football game, especially visiting teams that would, for example, play the Broncos because they're at almost 6,000 feet and they're not used to that. So they will have oxygen there, but they've got to go right back in a minute or 5 minutes and 10 minutes. So they're constantly just trying to get on top of the oxygen. It's funny, I did that show with Marchand recently, and he was always talking about oxygen. He's like, man, I was hitting that oxygen all the time. But if you're done, I mean, I think it would be one thing if you could have one of those in the middle of a stage, which obviously you cannot do. But once the race is done, I think you're off for what? Another 19 hours. Yeah. You have time to recover.
There's time to recover. No, it's interesting. My buddy Sam was in here staying. His hotel room had a little oxygen thing for guests here, like just to recover at this altitude.
Please tell me he didn't use that.
No, I don't think he did. But I was like, wow, it's just interesting. I have a question for Lance and George. Given the history of the Puy de Dôme stages, I'm curious to hear from Lance and George, what is the craziest encounter they had with a fan during the Tour de France? That's from Juliana in Raleigh, North Carolina. Do you remember?
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I can't remember.
We had a lot of
millions and millions of fans.
And most of them were, towards the end, certainly, of that run, it was, frankly, it wasn't very positive. It was
aggressive fans, like on
yeah. Which you can zone out, and and or even use as motivation. But there were not a lot of nobody was blowing any kisses.
The ones that stood out were so sometimes you'd have one guy or one girl be at like several tours, like 10 years in a row, and they'd be in these spots where nobody can see them, or they'd have like, a football jersey on with our names on there, or just the
guy with the helmet, with the horns and shit,
helmet with horns, and they'd stay at places where not many people were and just run next to you and scream at the top of their lungs. So those type of people stood out the most.
Yeah, apparently you're not alone, because Johan talked about it yesterday, how the fans were so aggressive with Merckx because they loved Puy de Dôme. Yeah. And he's like, the French hate the winners.
No, and Merckx was not very, I mean, obviously he's regarded now as the greatest of all time, but he was not popular in his day, and didn't help that. I mean, Puy de Dôme was the golden boy of France. I mean, he was the guy. And so, you can imagine. And we didn't even have to go up against that. I mean, Christ's sakes, we were beating Germans and Italians and Spaniards, and imagine if Jan was French, or Basso was French, or Baloki was French. Oh boy, it would have been 10 times worse.
Here's another one. A lot of emails from the people in the Southeast. Shout out from Greenville, South Carolina.
All right.
Yeah. Loving the season so far. It's cool to see Sepp Kuss in 10th right now, but it makes me wonder, what will it take for American cycling to produce another American on the podium of the Tour? Can U.S. cycling in its current state develop the talent needed? And is there anyone from the U.S. waiting in the wings that could potentially do it in the next few years? That's from Andrew.
George, you know this. You know the young kids better than me. Why don't you, if you start with just the talent pool?
Yeah.
And then I'd love to just come over the top with just a more of a strategic opinion and view on how best to go about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we got Tadej and Jonas, who are young riders, and they're going to be around for a long time. So it's kind of hard to say to pick a rider that's going to, be able to go toe to toe with those guys. But I think we're in a good position right now. We have 6 Americans in the 5 now, because we lost Quinn today. But all these guys are aggressive. They're making their breakaways. They're in the mountain jersey. We've won stages with Sepp Kuss a couple of years ago. He's the key player for Jumbo-Visma right now. So we're in a fairly good state in terms of American cycling, and there's some good young talent coming up as well that we're going to continue to hear more and more from. But as far as a Tour de France stage winner, I don't see one right now, but you never know.
Which I think they were actually talking about a Tour de France winner.
Yeah. I know.
Which, look, I think that, and I've touched on this in the past. I think, and I heard this the stat the other day. I don't know if it's true or not, but somebody told me that in the U23 category, now that may be across men and women, or it might just be men, I don't know. In the U23 category, the USA is the #1 country in the world. I need to fact check that. Somebody told me that, but I don't know. Even if you're top 3, hey, then you got the talent pool. Now, what do you do with that, right? Do you let them go to 10 different teams and get developed by 10 different teams and trainers and coaches and all these other people around them? I don't think so. And I've said this in the past. You see a company like Trek throwing all this money at a team like that. Team is just okay. Just okay.
They won yesterday.
It doesn't. That's just okay. That's winning stages. In
they won yesterday. They just got picked up a huge sponsor, a German sponsor called Lidl. They're signing some really big names.
George,
I'd say they're better than okay.
The question was, can we win the Tour?
Okay.
So to win the Tour, you cannot be just okay. And I'm not criticizing them, but I'm just being real. If I were them, I would take my budget and my resources, and I would go back 10 years ago and replicate what Sky did. They said, we have all this young talent on the track. We are going to hit pause. We're going to develop a team. We're going to look at every aspect of it, right? Whether it's the athletes we pick, the nutrition, the technology, the training, everything. We're going to take a true Formula One approach to this, and we're going to build a team that can win the Tour de France. And people thought, you'll remember, George, people thought they were fucking crazy. They said, there is no way. And voila, guess what happened? And we can do that. It's not going to work having guys go to all these different teams. And by the way, too, you don't have to have just Americans. Remember what Sky did? They brought all the best young Brits, and they put in some guys with them, some experienced guys, European guys, to be sort of capitaines de la route, guys to show them the way. And they built an amazing team. And it still is an amazing team. It is not, what they built was not just okay. It's a whole different approach. If I'm Trek or any of these other companies, I hit pause and I do that.
Come up with a 5-year plan.
Yeah, it's a 10-year plan. They've already been at it 10 years.
That's a question of sponsorship and it's a question of money. I mean, these days it's hard enough to find a corporate sponsor that's going to go in for 2 to 3 years, maybe 5, but to get somebody that's going to go 10 is almost unheard of. We need that.
And we need an American team. And again, that is not a slight on that team. I think Mads Pedersen is a fantastic rider, former world champion, won yesterday. Obviously, amazing. I'm talking about the entire approach as it relates to and pertains to the budget that is being spent and to the question, how do we win the Tour de France? If I'm somebody like that's what I do. And all the while, you can have a Mads Pedersen or a Scale Moser, all these guys that they can be a part of the thing, but you take a step back, you make a comprehensive plan, and you go try to win the Tour. That can happen.
Well, and George, with your son, you're seeing what the 14, 15-year-olds are doing. I mean, you're going to blink.
Exactly.
And they're all those kids are going to be 19, 20. And do they aspire to be World Tour?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
I mean,
absolutely.
The team he's on has got three or four really good, talented kids that impress me every day. And the amount of training they do, the amount of information they have at their fingertips and stuff that we didn't have. I mean, they're on it nutritionally. They're on it in training. It's just a whole different game these days with young riders.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Totally.
All right. We'll wrap it up on that note. If you have a question for a future show, send it to TheMove@wedo.team.
And we got the day off tomorrow. By the way, what are you going to do tomorrow while I'm gone?
That's a great question, Lance. I'm going to go check out the Aspen Museum. I have never been. I've been coming here for 5-6 years. Probably not going to ride. Going to take the day off. Maybe go hang at the pool somewhere. And just enjoy my day.
George, for anybody that's in Aspen, you want to hang out with George tomorrow, he will be at the rooftop pool at the W Hotel. He'll be the guy in the corner with the Guido shades and no shirt on.
Be like, how you doing?
And the big gold chain, drinking some frosé. How you doing? How you doing? It's a rest day.
Yeah.
We're going to win a tour. All right. Thanks for tuning in.